Hi everybody, I'm Eugene Fu. I'll be directing the Walinong Sari project. I will also be the one who will be art directing it as well, so I'll be leading you guys on the whole painting process. Now, this will be the first of several few videos that we will be giving to you guys to learn how to paint um, the artwork for the assets of this project. But don't worry, we'll try and start small. And in this introductory video, we'll be showing you the 5 main brushes that will be required for you guys to use and actually familiarize yourself with in order to create those assets. And we'll be starting off really small. Now you can see here on my desktop, there is a very beautiful landscape painting done by the concept artist Nick, who developed the style for us. And I'll tell you later on the reason why we actually changed the style. Um, and we won't be starting with something so complex. We'll start off with something very simple today, which is just how to paint a leaf. Okay? Yeah, so I wanted to just pop up this video here because I feel that I need to make an introduction to you face to face so that you know who I am and how I look like. And we'll just move this video out of the way and we'll get started on the tutorial. Now, let's leave this and this meeting. Okay, so this is the video, sorry, the video, the painting that Nick has come up with. Now, let me just show you how it looked like before. This was one of the paintings that I've done earlier that we submitted. But I felt that the style that I as much as some people liked it, I felt that it might be a bit too complicated for people to follow. So I had Nick, who is a close friend of mine. His Instagram handler is in the comments below if you're interested to actually follow him. He does amazing artwork. He is very, very interested in the development process. It's one of his, I would say, his strengths. So you do check out his Instagram profile. So he developed this style for this project. I set him off on this little 2 weeks where he actually came up with this very beautiful style, which is more simplistic, I would feel, and it focuses a lot more on the shapes of the objects rather than the form. Yeah, so and it is a little bit more batik, or I would say uh, probably impressionistic compared to the other more realistic sort of way of painting. Now, okay, so he also came up with these 5 different brushes that I will show you. Now, the first brush I'm going to show you is this one here. So let's call this brush a outline brush or the sketch brush. All right. So sorry, I think I will use this one. Yeah, so this first brush is called the sketch brush. Now he developed this brush because he felt that it was a very nice brush for you to do sketches with. The line is really solid and it still has that little bit of grit. If you zoom in and see, it has that little bit of grit that looks like a pencil, and it's really, really nice to use. Okay, the second brush that he has here, it's a similar one. I'm going to choose that. It's over here in my brush. Yeah, I kept tapping on this one, which is actually not the palette. It's just a screenshot. Okay, so this second brush here is a little different because if you actually go loose on it, it actually can get a little bit more gritty and fragmented and not as solid as the first brush. Okay, so when we are painting, this is the brush that we use because we want that little bit of grittiness that the first brush doesn't have. Okay, all right, so you see, if I press it harder, then of course it would solidify. I would reckon this to be more of a pencil like brush, whereas the second one is more like a crayon kind of a texture, and this is the one we use to paint. This is the one we will use to sketch. Now the third brush is an interesting one that he developed because if you look at his painting, and he did some sketches immediately previously, there were some motifs where there are little dots, right? So instead of you doing individual dots, he developed a brush that allows you to do these dots, right? So this is a really nice brush to use if you're, you want to just create those little dots on the leaf and stuff like that. Okay, now this third one, I'm going to tap that again, is great for when you're adding texture or sort of gradient and you still want a little bit of grit to the gradient. So let's say I'm going to paint this green, olive green, and I want to gradually change it to a lighter green. So you can do this with this brush, and it has a nice gritty texture to it. Of course, you can lower the opacity. All right, you can lower the opacity a little bit more. Select the olive again and go over it slowly, and you get an even more gradual gradient. Yeah, that has this nice texture in the center as they merge. And the last one is just a very simple a brush, a simple feather brush, just in case you want smooth, um, more simplistic looking textures, like if you're painting large areas like the sky where you don't need so much of this grainy texture, then you can use this one. Okay. But for today, what we're going to do is we're going to paint something very simple, which is something like a leaf. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly show you. I'm going to delete this layer that I've had. Now, how do you paint a leaf? Now, there are two ways I'm going to show you. When Nick showed me these brushes, um, I noticed that he would, well, I don't think he actually showed me the shape, but he did show me what his procedures were like, which is let's start off with a sketch. So layer 7 will be, I'm going to rename it sketch. So in this production, do keep in mind that you should name all your layers, and later on we'll be telling you how you should name your layers. Let's do a simple sketch of a leaf. Okay, we're not going to start with anything too complex, just a simple sketch of a leaf. Okay, and it's just a simple leaf like this. Okay, and oops, and I'm using the first brush. All right, this first one. All right, and I'm going to create a line in the center. Probably have a line here, 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 and probably a dotted one here, and perhaps another one here. I'm not going to make it too symmetrical, because a little asymmetry adds a little interest to your leaf design. Okay, I'm going to scale this down a little bit, and I'm going to just duplicate this design. I'm just going to show you two methods of how I'm going to fill this leaf. Okay, so I'm going to merge these two sketch layers. I don't want to be having too many layers. Do keep in mind that as we do this tutorial, you should, or rather, as we dive into this project, I do hope that you guys who are intending to participate have some knowledge in Photoshop, so that you can be able to follow these tutorials. Now, okay, the first method to paint this leaf, we're going to paint the foundation shape first. So we're going to create the shape first. I'm going to choose the brush tool or just press B, yeah, and go into this leaf. Now, I'm going to choose the second one. This is the brush we paint with, remember? So the first one is where we sketch with, the second one is where we paint. I'm going to pick a green color. It's nothing too fluorescent, right? Because leaves are not naturally fluorescent. Something like this would be good, yeah. All right, now I'm going to bump up the opacity to 100 because I noticed it was at 50 because it was too light. And I'm going to start drawing the outline of the leaf. So I'm going to do the stem and then the outline. Okay. And I'm pressing relatively hard now on my tablet, my Cintiq, right? And going round the leaf. It's a really simple shape, so it's quite easy. And this first technique requires you to have a relatively steady hand, all right, um, to actually draw out shapes like this. And this is a simple shape, so probably it's not that demanding on the steadiness of your hand. Okay, and what I'll do is usually I click the outside with my magic wand, Control Shift I, which is inverting, so I select now everything inside, and alternate, hold down alternate and press delete, and you fill the entire leaf with that shape, with that color, right? So now I'm going to just press B again and use the same brush and look at the outline. This is what we are looking for. We want this gritty, hand-drawn kind of edge. This is what we are looking for. Yeah. So I'm going to use this brush to go over some parts of it, because you don't need to go through all of it. I think some parts of it will do. You can leave other parts as it is. Yeah. So just smoothen out some of the edges. Like these, I find a little bit too gritty, then I'll use a brush to kind of go over it so that it's not as gritty, right? But you can leave some if you want. But this is the look that we are looking for in this production. It has to have that hand-drawn look, but at the same time balance it to be quite neat, because the wayang kulit, the way it looks should be quite clean, yeah, the shapes. Just for your information, the style we're looking for is not just wayang kulit alone, but also a mixture of this old Nanyang artist painters. Yeah. Okay, so you go look them up and see how their paintings look like. They are actually quite unique. It's a very eclectic style. Now, the second way I'm going to make this shape is with a very different tool. This is kind of a method that, well, Nick did not come up with, but as I was trying to test out his method, which I came up with, because I don't necessarily have a steady hand all the time. So what I did was I used a pen tool, and what you can do is you can just click and create the shape that you want, or going around it with the pen tool, right? And what we're doing is essentially we're making a path, um, a masking path with this, okay? And see, if you don't have a very steady hand to hand draw the shape out, this is great, because all you need to do is tap, tap, tap. And the bonus is that you can go back and readjust the shape, right? Before you finalize it, you can drag it out. Now select it all and go to path, and go all the way down to this third one here that loads this into a path. And once you've done that, go back to layer and alternate delete. And once you've done that, you'll notice that you would have created a shape that has the same the same full color. But the downside is now you still have to go in and kind of create that gritty edge to it. But the thing is, now you have a guide. I would say that this, it becomes almost, the shape now becomes like a guide for you, so it's not so stressful for you to actually um, create that shape by hand. Yeah, so that there is an existing shape on the back that you can use as a guide. Now, you can either use a brush to paint a little bit of an excess, so that, yeah, so I'm painting right over it, you can see, to create that shape. Alternatively, you could also use an eraser. So I'm changing it to eraser mode and using the second brush and erasing it. So you can either add or subtract. Either way, what we want is this sort of edge. This is the edge that we are looking for. This crayon drawn or pencil drawn sort of edge. Yeah, we want that slight grittiness when you are able to zoom in to a certain object or a certain character. All right. So yeah, once we've done this, then there is another step. Okay. Right. So done. Okay. Now, what's the next thing we're going to do? What we'll do is we'll add a little bit of texture to these leaves, and how we do it is using this brush here, the fourth brush. This is the one where we have add the grainy texture, or the texture that has a little bit of grit to it. So what we do is we lock the alpha layer, the alpha matte, and we are going to paint probably with a slightly lighter green. And once we lock this, if you don't lock it, if you paint it, oops, sorry, I should be using the brush, not the eraser. Um, if you don't lock it and you paint, you'll notice, oh shucks, it's painted around the brush, around the shape of the leaf as well. But if you lock the alpha, it will only paint within the leaf, the shape of the leaf. All right, so I'm just going to go very gently at the tip of both leaves. Actually, let's just do one. Because of the I made two is just to show you actually how to create the shape. Okay, let's just focus on one. And what we're going to do is, I think this is sufficient. We're going to add a little bit of texture to it. That's all that we need. And next, we're going to unlock the alpha and go to the second brush. Okay, I'm going to select the screen, go to the palette. The palette I usually like to use is the HSB palette because it's much easier to choose a shade or a tint that is of the same color. Let's say I want this green but darker. All I need to do is go down the B palette, and then I'm going to go in and create the outline. Now, if you look at this painting that he has done, all of the inanimate objects, or rather non-character objects, plants and environments, are all with outline. Our characters do not have outlines, which we will show you in a later video, not in this video. And we're going to go around the leaf now. Hope it's not dark enough. Okay, so we're going to go around the leaf, and I'm pressing relatively hard now to create that. Now, if you don't have a very steady hand, that's okay. I think this brush or this technique is quite forgiving, and I'm going like really slowly around the leaf now. But we would hope that you could also develop a thick and thin line, like the quality of line. I hope you know what quality of line is as an animator or as an artist. It means that you have a thick and thin of lines, that we can feel the force in the line, that there are thick portions, and as it tapers down to like a sharp edge or a corner, it tapers down. And we're going to go down here, and it should go thin again and then thick again. So there is that quality of line going on. Yeah. Not too much, I would say. You can keep the line pretty consistent, but there should be some interesting parts that, adds contrast to the whole object. Okay, so I'm just going up and down the line, making sure it's neat and clean. And then tapering it off here. Okay, yeah. So we are almost there. So now I'm going to go and do the center line now. This is a bit more challenging because it really needs my hand to be quite steady. But if you don't get the line at first, you can always go again, Control Z, right? So I'm going to just do this once. It's not really okay. This is quite okay, yeah. And then taper it off slowly. And then we're going to do those extra bits. 1, 2, 3. And finally, just for a final touch, we're going to use the really nice dotted one that he created and go here. Oh, it's a bit too tiny, right? So we're going to go up and here and here. And I think that's about it. Perhaps maybe over here. Not too close. You want a little bit of asymmetry, like I mentioned. All right, so this is the style that we are looking for. So a really simple leaf. You can watch this video again to practice. And thanks very much for watching. So do stay tuned for the next video where I will talk you through how I painted 2 banana leaves. The video will be sped up, and it's actually the same method once again, but just in a different context. Yeah.